Hey folks, welcome back to Three Corners of Horror. This is JR.
Lindsay.
Rick, make sure you follow and subscribe here on YouTube.
Now, last week we mentioned that we're going to talk about the movie franchises this week. The good, the bad, and the ugly. So, Lizzie, why don't you start us off the topic?
The good. So for me, my favorite, no surprise, is The Evil Dead. I love everything about it. For me, from the start, the first one, for me, I think the reason I love it so much is because of the fact that it's so not up to today's standards of what you expect gore to be. I mean, right, the pus and stuff that was coming out was like green and like it was so obviously fake, but it still like resonated with you, like this is creepy. I love it. And then obviously it became a cult classic because they made a second one, which was just as funny and humorous, and it just got funnier as you went on. And then Army of Darkness, of course, is just full on hysterical. But as a general rule, it's my favorite because of the fact that it was so minimal as far as set, even cast. You didn't need a whole bunch of people. You didn't need CGI like we were talking about last week. It got the point across, and it just became an instant classic, and I love that. What about you, Rick?
Yeah, I think one thing about The Evil Dead that a lot of people just gravitated towards that movie just for the simple fact that the first one felt like a couple of friends just getting together.
Yep. Yeah.
And say, hey, let's just have a few beers, we got a camera, let's just make a movie. Then when you really research into it, you realize that they made a kind of not a prequel, but like an early version of the film that they shopped around.
Yep.
And it's a little different, but it had the same Raimi camera movements.
Yep.
All the same, like, over the top, like, the demon sounds. And it was something like, wow, from the very beginning, Raimi had this vision, and he stuck to it, made the first one, saw it became pretty popular, right?
Yep.
But then when they came for the sequel, he got a lot more money to do the sequel.
Yep.
I believe it was Stephen King, was it? Someone got a hold of the movie and really...
Stephen King really
fought
enjoyed
for
it, and he fought for it.
He fought for it, got him a bigger budget for the second movie, and they could have just retold the same story, which they kind of did. But that was only for legal reasons because they didn't own they couldn't get the rights to the first movie, so they kind of retold the movie in the beginning. But they could have just went on with the same thing, but they opted to go even further into the comic realm.
Right.
It was, it was still pretty graphic, dark, but it had a lot of light moments in it, but not in the kiddie way, more like the over-the-top fun way. Then they went even further with Army of Darkness, and that was like, they could have easily just cashed in the chips and just kept doing the same movie over and over, but they kept giving you something different.
I loved it, yeah.
I remember real quick, when Army of Darkness came out, I didn't know that was Evil Dead 3. I was younger, and I remember the trailer had a song from Metallica, Holier Than Thou. And I was like, oh my god, I love Metallica. I begged my parents to take me to go see that movie. My aunt took me and my cousin to go see it. Sat in the theater. As soon as it started and they showed the little recap and I saw the Necronomicon, I'm like, this is Evil Dead 3? I'm like, what? I was like amazed. My mind was blown. That was like the best movie experience I think I've ever had, because I wasn't going and expecting that. No way. The movie looked like a cartoon in the trailer.
And ultimately, what I like about it is you could watch any of them and get kind of like a recap of the other ones. Like, you don't necessarily have to watch it in order. Nope. Like, you could jump in. Enjoy it.
A newer fan could jump in. Yeah, absolutely. Great movie.
The good thing about it too is it created such a memorable character in Ash.
Yeah. Oh
yes.
I mean, Ash became such a cult classic as far as the character, and the fact that not only did you have these demons coming in from a different world going into people, but one of the most famous scenes in the movie is just the tree.
Yep.
The tree with the girl, which I will not get into it. Just watch it because it's one of the most. You could either watch either one of them. I mean,
yeah.
You could watch the remake, and
the remake
has some tie
brutal.
to the tree. But add that, one of the memorable scenes that I remember from The Evil Dead is just like always freaked me out was the eyeball.
Yes.
When the eyeball went flying and went into the person's mouth, like oh my god. But that was what Sam Raimi...
Which was shot in reverse, mind you. Again, really? No CGI, just shot in reverse.
No, it was a very good franchise. Very good franchise. Now there's a series on Stars.
Yeah. Yep, it got canceled, but they ended it beautifully. So if you want to check it out, I definitely suggest it because they just carried it on from the trilogy. Yeah. It's very good.
That adds to our point. They made a TV series out of The Evil Dead, and they made it work.
Yep.
It's like, that's not easy. It's not easy at all.
What about you?
Well, I'm gonna go more traditional. Friday the 13th. I would say it's probably. I'm not gonna go ahead and say it's my favorite franchise of all time. That's kind of hard. I would need time to really think about that. But as far as the quality of each of the movies compared to like even Halloween, Nightmare on Elm Street, like you can sit there and watch like 1 through 8, and yes, I will take Jason Takes My Hand. It's fun. It's a fun movie. It's not meant to win awards, man. It's meant to you sit there, have a few beers, and enjoy it. But each movie brought a little something different, whether it was 3D elements or more supernatural powers were introduced into it. The character of Tommy was introduced to it, so that it gave you more people to root for aside from Jason. Because like I mentioned in the earlier video, Jason's the star of the series. I mean, from like the kills to like just the fact that he appears everywhere. He never runs.
Yep.
And he stalks you, but he always gets you somehow. Like, you know what I'm saying? Like,
well, I thought what is interesting with Jason too is like it's one of the first killers that a sound effect was used to introduce him.
Yes. You heard that.
Everybody knows that. I mean, when you heard that, you're like, oh, this person's dying. And it was like one of the original slasher films.
Yep.
Oh, yeah. I mean, slashers were around in the 70s. More, the Italians really got, Pieces, Deep Red. You got a lot of those movies. But he's the one that really brought it into the mainstream. What, Cunningham directed the first film. You got Tom Savini to jump on board to do the effects on it. I mean, the scene when Kevin Bacon's death. Man, I mean,
that's like my favorite scene.
Yeah, it's again, it's old school, and especially back then.
Yeah.
And then, but a lot of the kills, you think of Friday the 13th. Even if you're a casual fan, you think of the kills, whether it's the girl in the sleeping bag or the poor invalid, going with the, on the in the wheelchair. And then even my favorite to this day is Jason X, the cryogenic freeze. Straight out of Mortal Kombat, man. Like, you would never find a better horror slasher kill on film than that. And I stand by that. I've always stood by it. It's amazing.
Well, one thing too is Friday the 13th introduced everybody to basically the trip to your death scene, because everybody, just had one or two people trip. And basically that was it. So it became, for me, it started a whole running, tripping, and like, all right, here we go. They're dead.
The cliches are all there, but if it doesn't have the cliches, we'll be disappointed.
Yes. Yeah, I agree. Now for myself, just like Rick, I'm going to go traditional. I'm a big Halloween. Just like Jason, what I would say is the killers were recognized by a mask.
Yep.
Jason made the hockey mask popular. Halloween was the William Shatner. Who would have thought that? William Shatner mask. But it was a silent killer. It was basically, he killed at a certain pace.
Yep.
And no matter what you did to him, he just kept getting up. Now, I'm not going to say every single movie in the franchise was good. There's certain, like, 3 is kind of questionable. Some people hate it. Some people like it.
Oh.
The fact that it was a detachment of, Michael Myers. It's like it kind of threw people off. And why is this as part of the franchise? Now, 4 I kind of liked because it introduced Jamie, and I met Daniel Harris, I love her. But for me, it's just like after the test of time, Michael Myers is still here.
Yep.
He is Halloween.
Yeah, he is. And 3, you could say 3 different movies. You had the Rob Zombie, the Carpenter came back to do basically almost a reboot of the series.
Yeah. Well, but you mean the 2018 movie?
2018.
Yeah. I mean that's a good point, because technically anything after 1 doesn't exist anymore.
Right.
I think that was a great idea, but. You mentioned Halloween 3, and I think when they came up with that, I know you had mentioned it, that Michael Myers wasn't supposed to be in the series anymore at all. It was supposed to be like an anthology every Halloween of a different story. Of course, Michael wasn't in it. The fans really backlashed against it. They just shoehorned them right back into part 4 and 5 and so on. But Halloween 3, that's another movie I will defend. I love that movie. It's very creative. Not a fan of the little light show at the end.
Right.
But you got Tom Atkins in it. come on, any movie with Tom Atkins, man, you gotta go for it.
Stop it, please, for God's sake, please stop it. There's no more time. You've got to, please, stop it. Stop it now. Turn it off. Turn it off. Stop it. Stop it. Stop it. Stop it. Stop it. Stop it. Stop it.
I think Halloween resonated with me just alone, like we talked about. We mentioned it slightly in the last episode. That soundtrack.
Yes.
That there is no like Jason with the Halloween, that theme song. It is terrifying.
It is.
It is absolutely terrifying, and I think Michael Myers scares me because if you're going just based on the first one alone, not based on like where he dies and comes back, that type of thing, it really could happen in real life.
Yeah.
And that is so scary that this big guy could stalk you and you may not even notice. I mean, I agree with you. That's a very good franchise.
To this day, when Laurie's at school and she looks out the window and
Yes.
sees Michael sitting there in the, against the laundry,
Yep.
you know, the line with the clothes is flailing in the wind, and you see his image going in and out. As
Yep.
Oh man, as the sheets flap. That's
It's
what
genuinely
an image, man.
scary,
What an
yeah.
image. You didn't have to do nothing crazy just to get just to spook people, and just that alone right there, anyone could relate to that.
Thanks. He's an amazing character.
And it's broad daylight at that.
Yeah.
Yeah, I know.
And he drives. I mean, come on. He drives. I mean, no matter what he's gonna drive, I'm like, wow, this guy does it all. I mean,
like the Dr. Loomis line, you know. Oh, he was doing great last night. Something like that.
oh man.
Are you all right? You're all right?
Yes, I'm okay.
He's gone. He's gone from here. The evil is gone.
All right, so what do you guys think as far as
The
bad?
Well, I'm gonna tell you right now. When it comes to franchises, this is hard for me because I think if you're a franchise, chances are you got some good movies thrown in there. But one franchise I just never liked, never will, is the Leprechaun series. We mentioned Halloween with Michael Myers, Jason, you know, Evil Dead has Ash. I'm sorry, the Leprechaun character, I don't like him. He doesn't appeal to me. He's not funny. I don't think he's funny. Like, I think the jokes fall flat most of the time. It's very cliche in a bad way. I think if you need a horror villain, he's got to be like somewhat appealing, and that guy just he's not it, man. I don't know how. And then even the newer ones are even worse. I mean, they're getting.
Yeah.
I don't know how you could digress from that.
Yeah.
And it's still the whole thing. I mean, if this thing has so many powers, why is it running after you?
Right.
Coucou, ma charmante. Oh, des chaussures. Plus loin. Plus loin. Regarde. Oh là. Oh, ça brille, ça brille.
I
Right.
mean, and Jennifer Aniston made her debut in Leprechaun movie, which is
Well, I mean, Warwick Davis, he plays the Leprechaun.
he plays a leprechaun.
I mean, given what he's given, he does a good job at it.
He does.
You know, it's just I'm just not a fan. I just never got into that franchise. I saw the first few, didn't see all of them. I'll tell you that right now. But you know, that's the kind of movie when you're late night, just winding down, you put on sci-fi and it's on.
Right.
I can never watch that more than 10 minutes of these movies.
Nah, it was terrible, especially at the time it came out.
And I love bad horror movies. I could watch a bad horror movie.
Yeah,
you know?
me too.
But it's just the character. I don't like them. It's just doesn't do it for me, man.
For me, I wanted to like this series because I think I had one of the genuinely like frightening characters, but Phantasm. I mean, the Tall Man was such a great villain, and I mean, come on, the balls, the balls of the weapons and the command. I mean, they had the potential. The first one was good. First one gave you the nice story, background story. Basically, you know, a brother searching for his brother who was basically taken by the Tall Man. But it's just like after that, it just turned comedic. I mean, they still have them out, and it just lost so much steam because you had the potential to be a great franchise with a great character. Tall Man, which I do believe, in my opinion, is basically the one that brought, like, his figure brought Slender Man about based on the Tall Man.
Okay.
But for me, it's just like it. I mean, do you remember watching any of the Phantasms?
Yeah, like Leprechaun for me, I hate that series. But it looks like and I understand what you're saying. Phantasm, it failed to deliver. It has an amazing premise.
Yes.
They didn't follow up on it. I think they could have done so much with Phantasm. I really liked the first one.
First one was amazing.
I thought it was. I mean, the tall man, like you said, as a kid, he's the kind of guy that would creep you out. No, not too much makeup on the guy, just a tall guy, and just the stuff you hear about him, and then of course with the floating balls that would just stick into your head and just drain you of your blood and stuff like that. And the hero characters, a kid and his guardian, who was the guy.
I forgot the name of the
it escapes me right now, but
yeah.
you rooted for them. You were actually rooting for those characters. But then like you said, after that movie came out, they just failed to capitalize on it. That's the kind of franchise that kind of it definitely devalued over time.
It was like Leprechaun, where basically they start turning to humor.
Yeah.
Right.
And once you're horror, once you turn to humor, if it doesn't work,
it has to work.
And that's
because like Evil Dead did that,
exactly.
But it worked.
That's exactly what I was gonna say. Going back to the Evil Dead now, they did it right. And we're not saying you can't turn to humor, but if you're gonna do it, you got to go all in. You can't half-ass that.
Right.
What about you?
So mine would be Paranormal Activity. I did enjoy the first one because it was new then. That whole premise wasn't, now on Netflix there's 900, there's Unfriended, Host, there's Friend Request. There's a bunch of these paranormal movies that are the normal. And unfortunately though, I feel after that first Paranormal Activity, it just is predictable. It became so predictable. And the first one kind of was like that initial jump scare at the end that you got excited about. And the suspense was there throughout the whole movie. So you were like, what's going to actually happen? But as the franchise went on, in my opinion, it not only got predictable, but also it just the quality, it became all about the jump scare.
Yeah.
But with like no storyline to it, in my opinion. So for me, that was my least favorite because I honestly stopped keeping track of how many they actually made. I feel like they kept going.
Well, that's the thing too. Yeah. The first one had no real story.
Right, it was supposed to be more like a found footage,
exactly.
And I got that.
Couples
and it
in
was
the house, and I was legit kind of freaked out with the first one. Not during the movie, but when I got home, I'm in the dark, and I'm like, oh man. But then they try to add story to it.
Right. Because the first one for me, I think what got me more than anything was because it was like a documentary.
Yeah.
There was no background music. It was just noises and visuals. And that's a really cool concept when it works. But when you add the storyline and it got like, I don't even remember now, to be honest with you, it's been so long since I watched it. It was something about witches or something.
Yeah.
It was like...
They try to add too much. Then once they start showing you what's making this happen.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's when you got to check out.
That was one that could have been left at one and done because the movies that followed with that I didn't really care for either because they all had the same ending. Gallows. It's like they all had that suspense and then the ending is a jump scare. Every single one is the same.
Well, the problem I think with the Paranormal Activity is the first one was good because it was new, it was different, like the Blair Witch.
Right.
But when you get the second and third one, it's like they were forcing the story.
Right.
And it's like, all right, we know what happened to the sister. Now you're gonna basically feed this to us.
Yeah.
Right.
They add the sister in it just to keep it consistent with the other two.
And then they should
Wasn't
have went a
needed.
different course. Alright, so the last of the topic. Which franchise is just ugly? I mean...
Alright, so for me, Final Destination is ugly. I love it. So let me make that clear. When we say ugly, we mean like gross, gruesome. Doesn't mean bad.
Yes.
I absolutely love Final Destination. I actually have all of them on DVD. I thoroughly enjoy them. But there are certain scenes that stay with you that when I'm driving behind a truck with logs on
Yes.
it, I'm terrified.
To this day.
When I'm in a
yes.
drive-through, I'm terrified.
Well, that's the thing with that movie. All those kills, anyone could relate to them. Because
Right.
they're everyday things you would
That
go through.
happened, exactly.
Yeah.
And I mean, I'm not a huge fan of roller coasters anyway, but that movie made sure I would never go on one again.
Son of a bitch.
Yep.
So for me, that was, they did a really good job for me with the visuals and the makeup in that series for sure. I don't think they were cheap with their budget on makeup.
Agree.
Yeah, for me, it's going to be really similar to that. It's obvious. Saw. I love Saw. I mean, that's a franchise done right. They milk the hell out of it, but they keep you coming back to it. You know, unlike Leprechaun. You know what I mean? Like, I think the thing about Saw, and I love gore, so it doesn't gross me out. What it is, I'm very claustrophobic, for example. And when they put somebody like in a box or in some kind of torture device, just that feeling of being helpless, that gives you a lot of anxiety.
Yep.
I get goosebumps just thinking about it because nobody wants to be put in that position at all. You never want to be helpless. You know, that's like a Misery when the guy's tied up to the bed.
Oh, that's
He's
fantastic.
helpless. Like he could be there all day, and Kathy Bates walking by him left and right, and that alone just makes me like, oh, come on,
The
please.
anxiety, I know.
Please. So when I mentioned Saw, a lot of those scenes within the franchise itself, it really brings that tension, and I love it. I love stuff like that.
Well, the decision making too.
Yeah.
Whatever decision you make,
yeah.
even the first one,
Yeah.
the guy had to make it seem, are you gonna stay in there? Or are you gonna?
The needle one,
Well,
when
no.
she's
when
in the
he-
needles is what gets me.
when he had
Oh
to
yeah, that
cut-
one too.
yeah,
Yeah.
No, that was part 2, right? Yeah.
Yeah.
You're like, oh, dude, just wait for help. But then you're like, you know what? If you were in that position, would you do it too?
Hey,
Yeah.
But that's what's great about
You don't
it.
know.
I know.
You don't know
That's
'cause
what-
you're
I
not
know
there.
because you're not there. What's the ugly for you?
I think a lot of people agree with me that I don't know what they were thinking when they made these movies. I don't know what's the premise besides this basically making people want to puke, but the Human Centipede
What?
is I don't understand why it was made. Unfortunately, I watched the first one, and it's one of those movies where you know it's bad. You know you shouldn't be watching, but you fall into this thing where you're like, all right, I gotta finish it. And
Gotta
once
see it
you
through.
finish it, you're like, why? And then the second one is even more creepy than the first one, because the guy they bring in just looks scary.
Ugh.
let me tell
And
you.
in black and white.
Oh man,
Ugh.
the first movie had I'm sorry his name I forget right now, but the lead actor, the villain character, you were drawn to that guy. He was very fascinating.
Yeah.
But the second movie, I couldn't watch it because of the guy they picked to play him. I think he did too much of a good job. That actually drove me away.
He was scary. It was disgusting. I think the movie, as a horror fan, what we like about horror is there's certain boundaries that you hope they don't cross. And that's what makes a good horror movie. You wanted that little but this not only crossed it just went so far beyond that. It's like I was actually disgusted, not just with the scenes, just with basically what was done to certain individuals in the movie.
Yep.
You're just like,
Man, it sticks with you for a long time.
I mean, the
It
fact that they made more than 2 is crazy to me.
Yeah.
Like, I mean, there's another perfect example of a movie that, as disgusting as it is, obviously became a cult classic.
Feed her! Feed her! Hard!
Because why else would they make more?
Yeah.
There's an audience for it.
Yep.
Yeah, absolutely.
Sick audience, but
I mean, we watched it, so it says a lot about us. But,
we did. You know, even
Well,
as horror fans.
I didn't see the second one.
well, good for you.
I didn't see the third one. I stomached the second, but I couldn't go.
I don't
I
think.
saw
I
the
don't.
third
Yeah. I don't think it's for me.
All right, so thank you once again for joining us. Next week we will dive into one of Rick's favorites, Friday the 13th. So hope you join us. JR,
Lindsay.
Rick, make sure you like and subscribe.
thank you for joining us once again. 3 Corners of Horror.